This is 7 News, the voice of the border.
Tonight, the region's soaked with rivers rising and the SES on high alert.
A petition against Albury Council's cancellation of formal Australia Day proceedings.
And a Wodonga academic subjected to a terrifying road rage incident.
7 News begins now.
Good evening. The border was hit with a constant downpour of rain today, with some areas to the far west of the region getting more than 130 millimetres.
With isolated storms across the east of the state, some low-lying areas are on flood watch. Let's bring in Jacqueline Stanley now. And Jackie, this doesn't feel like El Nino.
No, Maddie. We thought we were in for a long, hot summer, but those late spring rains, I should say, have come pouring in. The Upper Murray and Mitta rivers are hardest hit, with potential for flooding tonight and into tomorrow. Heavy clouds rolled in on the border at around 10 o'clock this morning. Holbrook, Tallangatta and Falls Creek bore the brunt of the morning rainfall, with plenty now flowing along the Murray. But other than a few trees down near Yakandanda and Dedarang, the day has been largely incident-free. The SES says drivers need to be careful on the roads tonight, looking out for the potholes that will now be filled with water.
We are expecting to have some calls later in the day with the amount of rain that's already hit Albury today, and heavier falls overnight. So we've got some crews on standby to help the community here in Albury.
And the rain might be good for our gardens, but it's causing havoc for some crops this harvest season.
Indeed. Thanks for the update, Jackie. Jacqueline Stanley reporting there for us tonight. And staying on all things weather, it's time now to check in with Kirsty. And Kirsty, as we just heard, plenty of rain about today.
Yeah, it has been. Certainly a wet 24 hours. Maddie and Nick, hello to you both. And good evening, everyone. Lots of rain has fallen across the border region, with that flood watch for some of our local catchments overnight tonight. Benalla Airport recorded 27 millimetres of rain. Similar falls of around 25 to 35 millimetres across the high country to 9 o'clock this morning, after rain and storms picked up during the early hours of this morning. Some showers moved through again past 9 o'clock. Rutherglen has recorded about a millimetre, but it's been Falls Creek and parts of our high country that have picked up more of those isolated falls, 22 millimetres for Falls Creek. A very cloudy and humid day today, with light winds and temperatures just hovering around the low 20s, single figures about Mount Buller and Mount Hotham. We are expecting some heavy rain overnight again tonight. There is a chance of severe storms developing, but dry skies on the forecast for tomorrow. I'll have more on what our final day of spring is set to look like after sport.
Final day of spring, Kirsty. Thank you. Well, a local MP is tonight calling for locals to sign a petition to reverse the Albury Council's controversial decision to change the date of Australia Day ceremonies. Council has been slammed after making the changes without consultation, with some locals calling it a total disregard for democracy.
A stealth attack on Albury's calendar, changing the dates of citizenship ceremonies and awards, minus the community input. Albury Council's CEO coins it as...
It was an operational decision that I'm delegated the decision to make that.
While some call it an act of civic vandalism.
For anyone to do that, given that they're elected members, I would suggest that they should rethink that quite rapidly, because they're elected by the community to do things on behalf of the community. Therefore, the community should have some say in it.
I'm sick of politicians, councillors, altering things just because they think they should.
The rector for Albury joining the choir, saying council should just stick to rates, roads and garbage.
The agendas of particular councillors are their own agendas, and I think that the community expects to be consulted. That's the whole point of being a councillor. Otherwise, we might as well not have a council and just get some person who thinks they know best to make all the decisions for us.
Federal MP Susan Lee says she's reached the end of her tether.
To make a decision in a committee behind closed doors without consulting the Albury community is just not good enough.
So she's come to the table with a physical and online petition, where locals can sign to keep the date and be consulted by council with future changes to the calendar. At the doors today is ex-councillor Graham Doxey. He says the decision was a disappointing lapse in judgment.
I was gutted because I think that decision should have been made by the community first off, to our elected councillors and they make the decision. I think it was not a captain's call.
He says his reason for signing is simple.
I think it's an opportunity for the community to put their name to a piece of paper that can change the course of this decision.
The member for Farah's office will have its doors open up until the 8th of December. That's when the petition will be put forward to Albury Council to reverse its decision. Signed, sealed and under-delivered. Phoebe Worthley, 7 News.
A man is told of a frightening road rage incident where he was followed around Wodonga and racially abused. Victoria Police are investigating the incident, which is alleged to have included racial abuse.
A road rage incident suddenly marred by racial abuse. Indigenous man Mr Conrad Bingley says an altercation on Wodonga's High Street was a shock to the system and he's standing up to it.
Because if you ignore it, that is acceptable to you and it'll happen again and again.
Bewildered by the racial abuse, the Wodonga academic yesterday pulled out of a car park outside the chemist, accidentally cutting another driver off. A verbal stoush ensued between the pair.
That incident took about 30 seconds tops. There was no disruption to the traffic.
But then the man wanted more, following his victim from the chemist around to the mechanic on South Street.
2 cars raced through, one parked here, and then a guy got out and confronted the other guy.
Leans out of his car window and calls me a black.
I won't tell you what the guy in the car said to him, but it was very, very nasty.
The most alarming part of this whole story is when the 2 cars pulled in here to my car in Wodonga, the driver swerved at Mr Bilney, trying to run him over.
Said he confronted him and he swerved at him. Nearly hit him from what the boys were saying.
Without CCTV, police have taken statements from the witnesses at the mechanic. But in a disheartening turn of events, it is Mr Bilney who could now be fined for the road rage incident.
Well, because I don't want our society, either Albury or Wodonga, this is a great place and community to live in. And to have someone like that, like regardless of race, going out and giving me a whole bunch of lip about my racial background and all that is not acceptable.
Anyone with information is urged to come forward. Jacqueline Stanley, 7 News.
Accessing contraception will now be easier than ever before. Women aged 18 to 35 who have been prescribed the pill in the last 2 years can now renew their scripts over the counter at the pharmacy. Under the New South Wales government plan, resupplies will also be issued for free. Albury Priceline owner Amanda Ward says not only will the new program free up GP waiting rooms, it'll also help women stay up to date with their contraception.
Rather than waiting 6 weeks and having a lapse in treatment, they can walk into the pharmacies where the pharmacists have done the adequate training and then get that resupply for up to 12 months before they have to see their doctor again.
The Albury Priceline Pharmacy is just one of 1,000 pharmacies right across New South Wales who are participating in the program.
The mayors of Indigo Shire Mayor and Wangaratta have been re-elected. Indigo Mayor Sophie Price did not face re-election after winning last year on a 2-year term. Meanwhile, Wangaratta Mayor Dean Rees' position was secured with a full vote majority after Councillor David Fuller contested the election. Mayor Rees now stands as the longest-serving Wangaratta Mayor with 6 consecutive terms.
The mayor's job was only ever supposed to be a part-time job, but it's certainly turned it into a full-time job, which I'm super appreciative to do and I've enjoyed doing and I want to continue doing for the next 12 months.
Mayor Rees says this will be his final term. At the end, he plans to focus on family and his business.
10 rolls of turf and a wheelbarrow have been stolen from a front yard in Barranduda's newest housing estate. The owner moved in just 18 months ago and spent the best part of a year landscaping the new build. The final 10 rolls of turf were meant to be laid this weekend, but were stolen from pallets at the front of the property on Saturday night.
So to have this happen right at the finish line where we're just about done and dusted, it's a bit of a pain. It's not the end of the world, of course, but something that, of course, we'd much prefer did not happen.
The frustrated owner's wheelbarrow was also stolen by the heartless thieves.
High school students in Albury have received a lesson outside the classroom. The Rider program was held locally for the first time, teaching young soon-to-be drivers how to be safe on the road.
Braving the elements and learning a lesson in driving to the conditions.
Now, do we think that's realistic for stopping distance in the wet?
Around 200 high school students today took part in the rider program at the PCYC. It's run by Road Safety Education with the help of Rotary and teaches young soon-to-be drivers how to be safe on our roads.
Actively giving students the tools and the strategies and the knowledge to make better decisions on the road as drivers and as highly influential passengers.
It's about all the peripheral things, your mental attitude, the influence of your friends, all those types of things that that can impact on your driving.
Demonstrations both inside and outside the classroom formed 6 workshops throughout the day.
What do people on their provisional licence bring to the table that can make them safer than anybody else on the road?
Teaching crucial lessons about so much more than just getting behind the wheel.
We look at the relationship between music and driving decision making. We look at the relationship between speed and stopping distance.
And long before the students are in the driver's seat themselves.
This was a really controlled demonstration for you.
It's really important that those attitudes and those behaviours get sort of set from now because young people especially are far more at risk.
Around 40,000 students across Australia and New Zealand take part in the rider program every year, and it's been running for 2 decades.
You reckon we're good?
Our intention is probably to expand it in future years.
Road safety is a community challenge, and the solution to it is a community solution.
Claire Sienta, 7 News.
Still to come in 7 News, an eating disorder helpline flooded with calls.
And volunteers needed to determine the prevalence of a local mozzie virus. Welcome back. The Butterfly Helpline is preparing for a big surge in calls this holiday season. With families coming together to enjoy the traditional Christmas lunch, it can lead to distress for people who suffer from an eating disorder.
Christmas can be the most wonderful time of the year. However, for the more than 1 million Australians living with an eating disorder, this may not be the case.
An eating disorder is when somebody has concerns about eating, weight, shape or their control, and that impacts on their day-to-day life.
Between December 2022 and January 2023, the Butterfly Foundation helpline received almost 3,500 calls, a 15% increase on the previous year. Now, the helpline is preparing for a surge this holiday season.
We're more bombarded with advertising to try to sell us something across the Christmas period, and unfortunately in January that switches to New Year's resolutions and weight loss, and all of those things can really put a lot of extra pressure on people.
Professionals are dedicated to removing the stigma associated with an eating disorder, educating that a cross-section of people can be affected.
Certainly there's a small group of people with eating disorders that are thin, but eating disorders happen across the weight spectrum. They also happen in all genders and across all cultural groups and across all age groups as well.
The Butterfly Foundation website can offer support for individuals.
Many people with an eating disorder don't actually realise that they have an eating disorder. You know, they're suffering, but they don't realise what's causing that, and that there is help and support available.
Or concerned family and friends.
There's information specifically for people who are worried about somebody who may have an eating disorder. There's also links to support lines and other kinds of services that people can access. So I think that's a starting point to be informed.
Rochelle Putnikovic, 7 News.
If you've been bitten by a mosquito recently and live south of the border, the Health Department needs your help. The Ovens Health Unit needs residents from Indigo Shire, Wodonga and Wangaratta to roll up their sleeves as part of a regional study. It's collecting data on potentially fatal Murray Valley encephalitis cases. No recent data on the transmission of the virus exists, but the region saw a sudden jump in cases earlier this year.
We don't have any good underlying data to know how prevalent this condition is in our population. So this will help us understand the risk in our area and then help us with our prevention activities.
Those who are giving blood can elect to be part of the study, or you can sign up at a Dorovich Collection Centre.
Still to come in 7 News, Albury Cricket Club playing for its biggest match of the season.
And a border boxing legend fighting for a world title.
It's not a final, but Albury Cricket Club is preparing for its biggest match of the season. The club will hold its annual Pink Stumps Day fundraiser, where it's more about what happens off the field than on it.
For more than a decade, clubs across the country have turned pink for one day of cricket. Albury Cricket Club is one of those that have supported the cause, raising money for breast care nurses.
I think the Pink Stumps for us is, there's a connection with the cricket community. There's also a connection inside the club with Glenn McGrath himself. So, it just made sense for us.
The McGrath Foundation was created after the wife of former Australian fast bowler Glenn McGrath was diagnosed with breast cancer. It's the most common cancer affecting women in Australia. The day is about raising money and a whole heap of fun, including live music.
It is our biggest event of the year, and we try and tie it in with a couple of other things before and after so that we're making the most of, the setup we put together. So it is as big a possible day as possible, and we've certainly built on it over the years.
The match will take place this weekend at Albury's home at Bilson Park from 11:30am against defending premiers Lavington. Along with the stumps turning pink, so too will the players for the day in special shirts.
We commit to $1,000, but the last few years we've exceeded that well. So this year we've committed to $2,000 and hoping to keep building on it over the years.
Spots are still available for the Pink Stumps marquee from 2:30 to 5:30pm, or tickets to the after-match function.
Through the Albury Facebook page. We've also got a link to a Eventbrite page as well, so they can purchase tickets that way.
Stephen Murphy, 7 News.
North Albury has surged to second in the cricket standings after a hat-trick of wins. Corowa has also moved up the ladder into third, while 6 teams are separated by just 2 games. A slight gap is opening up in district between the top and bottom side, with Yak and Danda the early frontrunners. In the Hume League, Walla is a clear premiership favourite, with Rand and Holbrook both sitting 1 game outside the top 6. And in Wangaratta and district, there's nothing between the top 2, with Benalla just sitting outside the top 4. There'll be plenty on the line this weekend in what's been dubbed the Battle of the Border 5. 28 fighters across 2 different disciplines will compete, with the main attraction chasing a world title.
With 13 fights under his belt, Buddy Oldman is no stranger to stepping into the ring and on big occasions. Saturday night, that will be the case again as he fights at the Albury Entertainment Centre.
I'm really excited about it, but I'm pretty composed with my nerves and stuff like that. I guess it comes with age. So I just pretty mellow, but training very intensely.
Organised by Albury's Hurricane Combat Centre across 2 separate disciplines, competitors from Queensland, ACT and across Victoria and New South Wales will contest what's been dubbed Battle of the Border 5.
Boxing, Muay Thai, world title fight for myself, a couple other title fights, some really big boys in there as well, some super heavyweights. So there's going to be plenty of action, big hits.
14 bouts will be held on the night, including several title fights, one of which will see Albury's Jenna Slater take on Echuca's Jackie Agius for the Muay Thai bantamweight title.
The Muay Thai is a totally different aspect, where they're using elbows and kicks and a very structured discipline. And Hurricane Combat Centre, they train the fighters to be really disciplined and use their strikes effectively.
But the main event and last fight of the night will see Buddy fight for the WBL Masters World title in front of a parochial home crowd against Brent Blonde.
Very experienced fighter from the Gold Coast. He's a barrister, so that gives me even more of an excuse to want to beat him, because of the prices they charge sometimes can be ridiculous, so we'll make him pay for it.
Tickets can be pre-purchased from Albury Entertainment Centre or on the night. As always, when Buddy fights, he fights for a cause.
I've had a couple of mates lately that have been doing it really tough and haven't said anything, and it's about time people speak up, not shut up, because suicide is not the answer. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem that needs to be fixed.
Doors open at 6pm for a 7pm start. Stephen Murphy, 7 News.
Next on 7 News, will we see more rain? Kirsty has all the details in just a couple of minutes. That's next.
Good evening, everyone. Wet weather has lashed much of our state overnight and into today, with some significant rain and storms for some. The low pressure system causing this wet weather will continue to move down from New South Wales tonight. That means conditions should ease on the border tomorrow, but will remain unsettled for the high country. We will continue to see wet weather developing over the weekend as well for the start of summer. In fact, we're not forecast to see a reprieve until early next week. Now, most of our regions, heavy rainfall has already fallen, but we do have the risk of severe storms on the forecast, which could drop those localised heavy showers, and they are still possible for the border region. The Upper Murray and the Mitta rivers tonight do remain on flood watch as those river levels continue to rise. Taking a look to our Thursday now, there is that chance of a shower and thunderstorm for some tomorrow, mainly towards the southeast. So on the border around Albury, Wodonga, it is looking grey and cloudy with light winds, but mostly dry. Temperatures about the mid-20s, slightly cooler at Mansfield, 22 degrees. However, it is that southeast region around the higher ground where we could see up to 20 millimetres of rain. Falls Creek, just 8 degrees. We will have a cloudy morning to kick off the start of summer on Friday, and that accompanied by a high chance of late showers through the afternoon and evening. Across the region, we could see about 5 to 10 millimetres of rain. Maximums slightly warmer though. Beechworth, the top of 24 and the high 20s around Shepparton and Wangaratta. Those maximums will drop once again for Saturday down to the low 20s around Benalla, and for Corryong about 5 degrees cooler rather than our December average, and accompanied by a cooler southwesterly wind. Showers and storms returning to the region though as a trough builds in the northeast up to 10 millimetres. Looking ahead from early next week, summer definitely looking more summer-like with warm weather and sunny skies. We've just got a few more rainy days to get through first.
It sure has been wet out there.
Yes.
Thanks, Kirsty.
And that's your local news for tonight. Thanks for watching. You can catch up on our website or, of course, at 7plus.
7 News from Melbourne is next. Enjoy your night, and we'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock.